Talk to us about this transition to the helm of Marriott and what legacy you hope to keep on continuing.
Thank you, Caroline, and thank you for playing that clip. It's a poignant reminder of what a remarkable man and a remarkable leader that Arne really was. The way I've talked to our teams around the world over the last few days is really through two lenses, I think. Reflection and resolve. I think all of us are reflecting on the terrible loss for Arne's family, the terrible loss for the extended Marriott family, and really the loss for the entirety of the business community. From a resolve perspective, Arne would tell us to continue to look forward and continue to advance all of our efforts to reach the promise of the company. And that's what we're attempting to do. But as you point out, it is difficult. He was a beloved executive, beloved mentor and friend to me. And I think the best way we can honor his memory is to continue to build this company that he loved so dearly.
All right, Tony, well, let's talk about the company specifically. Obviously, the last year has been a remarkable one for Marriott and for any company involved in the travel space right now. We're starting to see vaccines roll out. We're starting to see a brighter picture for the economy here. What is your general outlook right now for more traffic in your hotels and getting back up to something resembling pre-pandemic levels?
Well, I think you've characterized the recovery accurately. At the break of the pandemic, on a global basis, our RevPAR dropped nearly 90%. We were running 12% occupancy on a global basis. As we mentioned last week in our fourth quarter earnings call, we finished the fourth quarter in the mid-30s in terms of global occupancy. That recovery is being led principally by the leisure segment, but we are seeing some encouraging green shoots in business transient. I think many of us look with optimism at the way we've seen the recovery unfold in China. In China, where the vaccine has been pretty effectively contained, we're at nearly pre-pandemic occupancy levels. And as you know, we have nearly 400 hotels in that market. And so I think that gives us a roadmap around the way our recovery may occur in other parts of the world. But we are cautious. As we've seen in certain markets, when we see a spike in infection rates, it has a pretty chilling impact on demand. So we are cautiously optimistic that we'll continue to see strong leisure transient demand and continued, albeit a little slower than we would like, growth in business transient.
From what you've learned from China, you've talked about those green shoots of recovery within the business travel. What numbers can you give us here in the U.S. to give us an indication of business travel returning in the U.S.?
Well, it's interesting. Some of the demand is a little difficult to track in terms of its business purpose. One of the trends that we've really seen through the pandemic is this blending of leisure and business travel. Increasingly, our customers, I think, have learned over the last number of months that maybe not every meeting, but certain meetings can be conducted virtually. And so oftentimes they're heading to our resorts, but blending business meetings with that trip.
I'm interested, Tony, in your perspective on what more is needed from a government level as we sit here talking about stimulus, as we still debate how much should be coming from the Federal Reserve. What can more, if $1.9 trillion is really necessary? Is it, from your perspective, how much more needs to be done for you, for your employees?
Well, most certainly the PPP plan has been enormously helpful for our owners and franchisees around the world. But I think if you spoke to most of them, they are most keenly focused on the efficiency and the effectiveness of the vaccine rollout. In markets where that rollout is effective and we're getting a broad swath of the public vaccinated, we're seeing fairly parallel increases in demand. We've done what we think we can do. At the start of the pandemic, we radically changed our operating protocols, our cleaning protocols. We migrated and improved our technology platforms to try and offer as much of a touchless experience for our guests as possible. And so I think we've made good progress in building confidence in the safety of travel.
Yeah.
But there are many travelers out there that are really making their decisions based on the pace of the vaccine rollout.
Have you resumed travel either for work or for pleasure?
Yes and yes, thankfully. Certainly not at the pace that I enjoyed pre-pandemic. I think in 2000 or probably 2019, I think I spent about 220 days on the road. But I have made a handful of trips. I've been in New York, I've been in Miami, I've been in Los Angeles, and the experience has been great. I think the airlines are doing a terrific job inspiring traveler confidence. And again, as I mentioned, I feel very comfortable and very safe in our hotels across the country.
Tony, it's interesting. Marriott is also sort of a portfolio of real estate around the world. How are you thinking about conversions at this time and property real estate values?
Well, I think the way we use the word conversions is conversion of independent hotels or competitive branded hotels to one of our brands. And that's an area where we're seeing a pretty marked increase in activity. You may know from a press release we did a few weeks ago, we just announced a pretty significant expansion of our all-inclusive resort portfolio. We signed a deal with a group called Sunwing to add 19 all-inclusive resorts representing around 7,000 rooms. That's across the Caribbean and Latin America. With our core brands, we continue to see strong interest in conversions. And when you mentioned real estate, as I'm sure you're aware, we have a pretty robust branded residential business as well. And interestingly, that's been a segment of our business that's been pretty insulated from the pandemic. We had a historic year in terms of the performance of that business segment, and there is lots of demand for that product.